Use these systems in your everyday life. Use the LOCI and the LINC. You can remember all those things that from day to day you've been forgetting for years. Every single day use your memory. And if you've spent your life thinking, I've got a bad memory, I just can't remember things. Oh, you'll have to write that down. I can't remember a thing. Darn, I forgot to do those things on my list. I'm so absent-minded. Gee, you'll have to excuse me. I just can't remember names. You know, I'm good with faces, but I can't remember names. All those old, weak excuses that all fall under this general category of I have a bad memory. You can throw all those out. There's no reason from here on out for you to say I have a bad memory. You don't have a bad memory. People who have a bad memory are people who are brain damaged. If you're brain damaged, okay.
And one thing that gives you, when you can remember a person's name, you can have the confidence that you need in life to be successful. And you know, the thing about names and faces, it's really important. It doesn't matter what you do in life, whether you are an officer of a company, whether you work behind the bar at McDonald's, whether you are in sales, it really doesn't matter. You need to remember names and faces. The thing that will give you is a tremendous amount of confidence.
I don't care who you meet tomorrow. If you don't meet anybody, then you walk out on the street and grab somebody by the hand and introduce yourself, and they'll think you're a lunatic, but get their name out of them. Go ahead and use your word substitution. Some names are so easy to substitute. Steve Nickel. When I met Steve Nickel, I remembered sleeve and, of course, a nickel with your picture on it, in fact. And what I pictured, the first thing I saw in you were your eyes. I think he has these big, beautiful blue eyes. And Steve Nickel. So I pictured him with sleeves, shirt sleeves hanging out of his eyes and nickels falling out of the sleeves. Now that wasn't too tough, kind of a ridiculous image. The next time I met him, I said, Steve Nickel, how are you doing? And he was able to remember my name as well. So that's the way that you remember names. You'll never again run into that situation where you run into somebody and say, oh, yeah, when they remember your name, you remember theirs.
And the amazing thing about the LINC system and the power of it is that you can use it not only with objects, which is there you can visualize objects, you can also use the LINC system with abstract ideas, and we can get into that a little bit later.
Sure, you remember it. You meet a girl named Dorothy Snowden. What do you think of Dorothy? Wizard of Oz. What do you think of Snowden? Snowed on, snow on her head. So the next time you see her, you just say, well, if it isn't old Toto Slushhead. You're right. Now I'll give you one more. I'll take Tony, and I'll say toenail. The closer to Tony than to any other name, it's unlikely that I'm going to walk up to him later and say, Toenail, how are you doing? I'm going to remember that it's Tony. It's called original awareness. Because you heard Tony and you thought toenail. Okay, I'll take your cheeks. I'll use the cheeks. Why are his cheeks kind of bulging out? Because they're full of toenails. Every time he cuts his toenails, he puts it in his cheeks. All right, his last name is Smith. Now, for Smith is easy. You can think of a blacksmith. And, you know, a blacksmith may even be difficult, so I think of an anvil. Back the blacksmith's hammers on. Okay, now I have an anvil and a toenail.
That's right. And what toenail is, what we're doing here is using a technique called word substitution. You use word substitution. Toenail is a substitute for Tony. You put that on his cheek or in his cheek in your example, and because of what he called original awareness, you would remember that his name is Tony. You'd then see an anvil linked to the toenail, and maybe an anvil smashing some toenails. That would link the Smith to the Tony.
Let me just see what I've got here, find a name here on one of these articles. I have Donald Korn. That's his name, K-O-R-N. Again, Donald Duck is the first thing that pops into my head. Come up with the first thing, the first visual image, the first thing that you see. And this isn't a face, this is not a picture of Donald Korn, but let's just say it is. Here's a man. First thing I see on him is kind of a bulbous nose, just a little kind of round Santa Claus-y bulb on the end of his nose.
So we might see Donald Duck standing or jumping on this person's Santa Claus-looking nose, and then we link the corn to Donald Duck. The Donald Duck is eating corn, maybe out of the person's nose.
In fact, what I picture is Donald Duck myself. What I pictured was Donald Duck hanging onto the guy's nose and reaching up and catching corn as it's falling. But in any case, what you do want to remember, even if it's Donald Duck eating corn out of the guy's nose, when you walk up to him the next time, you're going to say, well, howdy, it's Donald Korn. You know, the funny thing is, you may be afraid that you're going to say, it's Donald Duck Corn Nose or something, but it's not going to happen because you had original awareness. The first thing that you heard was Donald Korn, not Donald the duck corn nose.
That's right, and the thing that you need to make sure is that you do have that original awareness, that you do know that his name is Donald Corn. If he comes up to you and you say, "Hello, I'm Steve Nickel," and he said, "Hi, I'm."
There's nothing worse. I've been with my wife places where we've run into somebody. I was supposed to know their name, and they walked right up and said, "Bruce."
"Hi, I'm."
Yeah, this is my wife. This is Debbie. I'm thinking, I think it's Debbie. Don't ask me what my own name is because I'm in a panic by now.
Because I wanted to introduce my wife to my boss last week, and I could not remember my wife's name. Now that's embarrassing.
It happens to all of us. Yeah, this is my wife. This is Debbie. So I can say, "Tony, how are you doing? Honey, this is Tony." I can't remember her name, but this is Tony. Tony, you know, and Tony this and Tony that. Use his name as much as possible. Listen to the name. We don't listen. Nobody listens. When you're introduced to somebody, you're so concerned about hearing your own name. I want to hear Bruce. I don't care what your name is. I want to hear Bruce. So once I hear Bruce, I'm satisfied. If your name's Mike or Jed or I don't care what your name is, Tony Smith, I never hear it. But now start to change that. If you want to remember names, shake their hand. "Tony, how are you doing?" When you walk away from them, "It was nice to meet you, Tony." It's the first thing I saw. When I saw Tony, I see these Coke bottle glasses.
You know, the feature that catches my attention with Tony are his big cheeks.
Kind of
his
jowly,
jowls.
yeah.
Right. And so what we want to do is we want to take that outstanding feature and look at it and then put something on that feature that will help us remember the name Tony.
Now we're going to link Tony Smith with this particular face. Now
With
Tony,
this, in this case, with this cheek or with this jowl.
Tony, I think of toe and knee. That's a personal thing. I just picture a big toe, this big, maybe ingrown toenail, this big toe, and sticking out of the toe is a knee, just dangling. Here's this knee. There's a toe knee for me.
Okay. I think of Tony the Tiger. I see Tony
Sure.
the Tiger, and if I wanted to link that with Tony that's on this magazine, I would see Tony the Tiger coming out of his cheek.
One other thing that you're going to want to do, it's also in the workbook, it's called mutilation. Pretty wicked sounding term for a very simple thing to do. Okay, what can we do to a doctor to mutilate a doctor? Well, let's break his legs, or let's crack his head open. In some way we're going to damage this doctor.
If you don't want to be that violent, what you could do is you could take away his stethoscope. If you always see the doctor with his stethoscope on, and then take it away or bend it up.
Wrap it around his neck. I'm the violent one.
Okay. You can mutilate that doctor. That would tell you that you've already seen that card.
And what
in
can
the
you
deck.
do with blood?
With the blood, what I see blood as, if I want to see it mutilated, I see a lot of air in it, a lot of bubbly blood.
I always think of it boiling, which is pretty close to that, I guess. I think of it burning up and boiling.
Okay.
And what was next?
The bones.
And what can we do to a bone?
Obviously, you have broken bones.
Sure, you just break it over your knee. And the next thing on our list was the Coke. And what can you do with Coke? You pick up the bottle and drink it. It's empty.
Yeah, or you can break a bottle of Coke.
Sure. And then we had a duck.
The duck, you can pull out all its feathers, or cut off the duck's head. You can do something to mutilate it.
I always like to take Donald Duck and wring his neck. It's just a personal thing. And then what did we have next? The queen.
The duck landed on the queen's head, or the queen was waddling around like a duck. I would see the queen possibly laying down on the ground dead.
Okay, she's dead. I like to behead her, but it's personal preference. And then we have a housewife.
A housewife, you could see her, maybe she's been working so hard, sweat is dripping off her, and she's passed out on the sofa.
She's working so hard that she finally gave up. She hung herself. She's hanging from the rafters.
He really mutilates.
In fact, if you want to impress somebody, try this mutilation tonight. Did I mutilate a duck? Sure, I wrung Donald Duck's neck.
There are different ways to mutilate things. We've just shown you probably the simplest way. The next time, maybe you want to mutilate them by fire. The most important area of remembering, or the memorization process, is the way to remember names. You always remember the face, you don't remember the name. You don't go up to somebody and say, "Boy, I know your name, but that face, I sure can't place the face." You don't say that. You don't walk up to Sally and say, "Hi, I know your name's Sally, but what do you look like?" You don't do that. I did the same thing with my 4-year-old daughter, and she was able to remember the story that I told her. She has no idea what cards are, but I told her the story that she needed to remember. I was asking her things like, what comes after the doctor? She would say, blood. I say, where does the blood go? It goes on the bones. She can remember the stories. In fact, why don't you shuffle them, Bruce?
Why don't I do that? Shuffle them on my knee. We'll do one more and then we'll stop here.
The King of Diamonds, I think of a king that starts with the letter D. I think of King David.
Okay.
King David in the Bible that looked down on Beersheba.
Okay.
So I see King David looking down on the housewife.
He's looking down and watching the housewife as she's doing her chores. No sexism involved. People are so impressed by that. What they don't realize is that in our heads we're saying, okay, the doctor had blood all over him and his blood dripped on the bones and he drank Coke.
So why don't we go ahead and go through those cards?
We open it, a doctor jumps out.
And what's happening to the doctor? Blood's
He's covered with blood.
dripping from him. The blood drips down on some bones. You pick up a bone and you drink some Coke. The Coke then is
poured
poured
all
out.
over the duck. The
All over
duck flies up and lands on the queen's head.
Or I see the queen waddling around like a duck.
Right.
The queen is really a housewife, and King David
Is looking down on her.
And then all you have to do, those images are very easy to visualize. All you have to do now is translate back.
So when you go back, all you have to think is of doctor, blood, bones, Coke, duck, queen, housewife, king. King David, that is. Blood.
Blood's the ace of diamonds.
Okay. Bones.
Is the 10 of hearts.
Coke.
Is the 10 of clubs.
Duck.
Is the ace of clubs.
Queen.
Queen of clubs.
Housewife.
Queen of hearts.
King David.
King of diamonds.
That's it.
And
So
we'll
we
take a
don't-
look at those cards and go through the links that we're using and memorize this deck in order. We don't have the full deck.
He doesn't.
And so if we wanted to remember that blood comes after doctor, we would see a doctor dripping with blood.
Sure, maybe he just operated, his arms are just dripping with blood.
That's right.
Ooh. But now we have a doctor dripping with blood. Why? He's got a bone sticking out of his arm.
That's right.
Is that what you were thinking of?
Sure.
Okay. Easy enough. All right. I was thinking you could pick up one of those bones and drink. Yeah, you put it up to your mouth and drink it and Coke comes out of it.
Okay.
Nice,
That's another way.
disgusting image. In fact, this happened to me not too long ago. I had to pick up a prescription at the store and the pharmacist said, "Do you have your prescription card?" I didn't have it with me. I left it at home. I said, "No, but I can tell you the number. It's 1008024854613911175."
And so maybe French fry.
Okay.
The steak
Yeah.
sauce is on some French fries.
Easy.
So
Your
you've
mother
linked
slides
one to
down
the
a
next.
Your mother's an active woman. She slides down a rainbow, lands in a box filled with steak sauce, and there's French fries on the bottom.
That's right.
Now, how can you link that to your driver's license?
All you have to do is say, my driver's license has what on it? It has a picture of my mother. All you have to do again with the link system is link one thing to the next, and the rest takes care of itself.
Another important point here, your mother slides down the rainbow and falls into a box.
Is you want to make it have action. In other words, if you wanted to see a glove, see a very, very small glove or a very, very large glove. Maybe a glove beating you in the face to make it very visual in your mind.
Anything that's an exaggeration, whether it's really big, really small, a lot of things, just one little teeny tiny thing, you can step on a person. In your own mind, you can do whatever you want. Take your mom and put her in the oven. And, not only can some people fulfill fantasies that way, but you can remember a very long list of items. When I sat down in that Jell-O, it was a tactile experience. The other thing you can do is emotional, and that has to do with mutilation, sticking a dog in the refrigerator.
It was a sofa, and you had Jell-O pudding, you sat
And
down
I
in
sat
it.
down. Now I'm going to reach into my briefcase again and pull something out at random. Let's see what we get here. It's a broken piece of a recorder, like a flute. A box of Jell-O. It just sat in a bowl of chocolate Jell-O pudding. Let's just do a couple more, and then we'll go on to another system. I have a pocket watch.
Is the sofa.
Okay, now you take a moment at home and think about it. What's on the sofa? If you remembered the oil dripping, this black oil all over the sofa, then you remembered that Steve needs to get his oil changed.
Exactly right. The next thing is the fireplace.
Can you remember what was in the fireplace? Somebody was burning. If I remember right, it was your doctor. He was on fire.
Is a sofa. You walk in, there's the sofa. The next thing that comes along is the fireplace. Then the piano, then the planter box, then a dining room table. You go to the kitchen, there's the refrigerator. Then there's the oven. Then there's the microwave oven. Then there's the bread box. Then there's the sink, the kitchen sink. Then there's a toaster. Then there's where you put the canned goods. Let's walk downstairs. There's the stairs. You walk in, there's a toy box. Then there's a TV, there's a VCR, then there's a speaker. Then you go into my den, and there's a closet with shelves in it. There's a bookshelf. There's a computer system, a
Whoa.
But what we can do is we can put my doctor in the fireplace. The fire's going. I see my doctor burning up. That's a very vivid image in my mind.
It's your mother's birthday. You got to call her.
That's an easy one. What I do is I put my mother up on the dining room table, which is the next object in my LOSI system. And since it's a birthday card, you could actually visualize my mother in her birthday suit. That would remind me to get a birthday card for my mother.
I'll bet. All right, Dr. Freud wants to see you right after this taping session.
So I open up the refrigerator, and I see dogs coming out at me. And
Right.
in fact, they run out and run right over the top of me. That would remind me to take my dog for a walk.
Let's go back now and take another look at that LOSI of yours. I want you to go through your own home, Steve, and I want you to name each item as we come to it, and I want to see if I and the people listening to the tape can remember what that object was and what it was that you needed to get done.
Each of you in the audience can do the same thing. If you walk into the front door of your home, whether it's an apartment, your home, a tent, whatever it is, you know what's there.
You know, without your permission or knowledge ahead of time, I planned a little something of my own for you. I brought with me about 40 items, and what I want you to do is select them from my briefcase in any order. You can pick out any 20 items, and I want you to remember them in order. Now remember, this is going to be on tape, so the people who are watching this are going to see if you mess this up. Are you ready?
We have a video cassette.
A video cassette, how appropriate. There's our first item.
Okay. Then we have a notebook.
Okay.
Then we have some film. I guess some film.
Right.
There you go.
Okay.
Then we have some sunglasses. Incredible. And then we have a book to read. Then we have a picture of Casper the Friendly Ghost.
Oh, we'll call it that.
And then we have a playing card,
The Joker.
a joker. And then we have a book of matches. Then we have a cookie cutter. Then we have a yellow marking pen.
Right.
Then we have a rubber scraper.
Spatula, scraper.
Rubber
Okay.
spatula. How's that?
What do we got? No, keep going. I
Okay.
know you're good.
Okay. Then we have, what in the world is
A
this?
jar of knickknacks.
A jar of knickknacks.
You picked it.
Okay. A deck of Crazy
Crazy
Eight
Eights.
playing cards.
Okay.
Then we have a wrench.
Uh-huh. One more.
Then we have an all-purpose
Swiss Army knife.
Swiss Army knife.
Now, did you link those?
Certainly. The first thing we have is a VCR. Then we have a notebook. Then we have some film. Then we have sunglasses. Then we have the book. Then we have Casper the Friendly Ghost. Then we have a playing card. I think it was a joker. Then we have a book of matches. Then we have a cookie cutter. Then we have a yellow marking pen, a rubber spatula, a rubber scraper. Then we have some knickknacks. We have a deck of Crazy Eight playing cards, a wrench, and a Swiss Army knife.
That's great, Steve. And from now until the end of your days, you can have a perfect memory.
You know, the power of our mind is just incredible. And with the tools and techniques that we've shared with you, the LOSI system, the other memory tools and techniques that, Bruce, that you've mentioned, you know, we can begin to unlock the power of our mind so we can open up memory power. Hi, I'm